It was the final day of school, and a large crowd had gathered on the field for the annual sports meet. Among the events was a special race, the race of life, as it was called. Unlike the other races, this one was not about speed alone. It was designed to test endurance, courage, and heart. The principal had announced that students from every grade could participate, and the winner would be honored not just with a trophy, but with something far more valuable: the respect of everyone. Among the participants stood a small boy named Arjun. He was not the fastest, nor the strongest, but his eyes were filled with determination. He had seen struggles early in life. His father had passed away when he was very young, and his mother worked long hours to support him. Every evening, Arjun would help her before sitting down to study. While others spent time playing, he would be cleaning, cooking, or doing odd jobs for neighbors. Life had been a race for him long before he even stepped onto the track. The race was unique. It had several stages: running, climbing, crawling under nets, and even carrying a sack over a distance. At every stage, students would drop out. Some would stumble, some would quit, and others would be disqualified for not following the rules. Only those who showed both physical stamina and mental toughness could make it to the end. As the whistle blew, the runners took off. The first leg was a 400-meter sprint. Arjun was slow to start. Others surged ahead, but he kept his pace steady. He knew better than to burn all his energy at the beginning. By the time he crossed the finish line of the first leg, a few students had already fallen behind, panting and gasping for breath. Next came the rope climb. A tall wooden structure stood in the middle of the field, and each participant had to climb it, ring a bell at the top, and descend. Some slipped midway and gave up. Others rang the bell but struggled to come down. Arjun waited for his turn, watching how others climbed. When he finally began, he focused not on speed, but on balance. With slow, careful movements, he made it to the top, rang the bell, and descended calmly. The third challenge was a crawl under a long net, set barely a foot above the ground. It required strength, but more importantly, patience and grit. The ground was rough, with pebbles digging into knees and elbows. Arjun bit his lip and kept moving. One hand forward, one leg, then the other. Dirt covered his clothes, and his arms were scratched, but he didn't stop. When he emerged from the other side, more than half of the participants had quit. The final stretch was the most daunting. A sack full of sand had to be carried over a hill and down the other side. Many groaned just seeing it. The hill was steep, the sun was hot, and the sack was heavy. Arjun adjusted the weight on his shoulders and began the climb. With every step, his legs screamed in pain. His arms ached. Sweat poured down his face, but he thought of his mother. He thought of all the times he had seen her carry bags of vegetables, buckets of water, and hope, without ever complaining. Midway up the hill, one of the boys ahead of him fell. He had twisted his ankle and cried out in pain. Others ran past. Arjun stopped. He looked at the boy, looked at the finish line, then dropped his sack. He helped the boy sit up, tore a strip from his own shirt, and tied it around the ankle for support. The boy looked at him surprised. "You're giving up the race for me?" Arjun shook his head. "No, we're finishing it together." With his own sack in one hand and the injured boy leaning on the other, Arjun resumed the climb. It was slower now, much harder, but he didn't stop. When they reached the top, the crowd below had noticed. A hush fell over the field. Even the judges stood, watching silently. Arjun and the boy slowly made their way down the hill, step by painful step. When they crossed the finish line, the crowd erupted into applause. Later, when the principal came forward to announce the results, he called Arjun's name. Many had finished before him, some with better times and fewer struggles. But the principal's voice was clear. This race was never about winning in the traditional sense. It was about life, and in life, Victory is not measured only by speed or strength. It is measured by character, compassion, and courage. Today, one boy reminded us all what true victory looks like. Arjun stepped forward to receive his medal. It was not made of gold or silver but of wood, engraved with just 3 words: heart over haste. The crowd stood in silence, then clapped as one. His mother, standing at the edge of the field, wiped a tear from her cheek. That night, Arjun sat by the window looking at the stars. He held the medal in his hands and thought about the race. He hadn't run the fastest, he hadn't climbed the highest, but he had never stopped trying, never turned away from helping someone in need, and never let his struggles become excuses. He smiled, knowing he had won something greater than a race. He had discovered who he truly was. The race of life, he now understood, never ends. It is not a one-day event. Every morning brings a new starting line. Every choice is a step forward, or backward. What matters is not how many people you outrun, but how many you uplift. Not how fast you move, but how far you're willing to go for what is right. And with that thought, he closed his eyes and drifted off to sleep, ready to run again tomorrow.